You've seen this report coming out, and even this one, about how much more equity people have gained as homeowners in the last couple years, right? And how much it's going up each year. And in this video, I'm gonna break down all the different ways that you can use that equity that you have in your home for other things. But first, you know you gained equity in your home and you want to borrow against it. Specifically here in Texas, you can borrow up to 80% of your home's value. That means you're leaving 20% equity in your home. And out of that 80% is going to come your current mortgage balance if you have one. It's going to have closing costs come out of that. So it doesn't mean you can just borrow that amount of 80%. 80% of your home's value minus your mortgage, closing costs, things like that. With the money left over, what can you do? What are some good uses that you can use this equity for, especially as interest rates have gone down and will continue to go down? It's a much better time to refinance now than it has been in the last year or longer. So here are some ideas to think about to use that equity. Number one is just leave it in the home. You don't even have to take it out. You can just leave it in your home. As your home increases in value, you're going to grow that equity. So if you're ever to sell, you could use that for a down payment or whatnot. Home renovations. You hate the kitchen. You want to redo the kitchen. Borrow the money for that project out of that equity. Debt consolidation. This is paying down debt. You have a bunch of credit card bills. You have this bill, that bill. If you can borrow and take it at a cheaper interest rate, and it's going to stretch on that term, it's going to give you some financial stability by being able to pay off more in monthly bills out of the equity of the home by refinancing to take cash out. Investing in real estate in general, if you want to buy, let's say, a rental property, and it's going to be 20 or 25% down payment, let's say, you could take the equity out of your current home and put it down on the new property, right? A great use of that equity. In fact, that's how I bought my first rental property. I didn't have the money for the down payment. I took it out of the equity of my house and put it down on my first rental property. And I'm super glad that I did, because it caused me to get into the rental game sooner than later. College education. Your kids are going off to school. It's a pricier cost. You could borrow against that equity for paying for college, right? Either taking out a lump sum and then paying the payment over time, or paying that large bill, whatever it is. You've also got your escrow shortage. If your payment shot up because you didn't have the money to pay the difference that the escrow was short, you could use that equity in a refinance to get your payment, balanced versus shooting up like it did. Starting a business. Maybe you're thinking about buying a franchise or starting a business, right? Let's say that business is going to cost $50,000 to get going. Maybe you could borrow that out of the equity of your home. It's going to be cheaper and better terms, most likely, than a business loan. So a better option for you to take that cash out of the home at a cheaper cost to be able to start that business. Medical expenses. This is never fun, but maybe if the medical expenses have been compounding on you, it's very difficult. You could take the equity out of the home to pay for that. This is also true of a loved one, parent, child, things like that. You could pull out the equity to do that. Emergency fund. Let's say you don't have any money. Somebody lost their job, right? Or you're a little concerned that if something was to not go your way, you'd be having a difficult time financially. You could pull out that equity and sit on it just in case you may need it for the future. It's always good to have an emergency fund, period. And then here's the thing. If things improve and you don't need it, or you're able to save, take that money and put it back toward the principal of the loan. Then you're not paying interest on that amount that you borrow. Energy efficient renovation. You could get new windows, replace your AC unit. Some of these pricier homeowner type costs, you could use the equity in your home with a refinance cash out and pay that. A pool. I just had a client do this where they took the equity out of their home once rates went down to pay for the pool. It was easier and better terms than the pool loan options, and pool loans are gonna have stricter rules, right? Using this allows you to be able to then just take the cash and do the pool. Retirement saving. Let's say you're concerned about your retirement and you haven't saved enough. You could pull out the equity in advance. Weddings. I don't know if that's something that I would say you should or shouldn't do, but that is something you can do. Is you have an expensive wedding coming up, either for yourself or for your child or whoever, take the equity out of the home and use it for the wedding. Second home or a vacation property. Hey, I want to get a property at the beach and I need to put 10% down or 20 or more. Can you take the equity out of your current home to put down? Here's the thing too. If you have enough equity in the home, you could take out a lot of equity and buy the new property cash. And think about this, the interest rate on second homes and investment properties are higher than they are on primary homes. So you're still borrowing the money, but you're borrowing at a cheaper interest rate because the interest rate for your home equity cash out is going to be cheaper than those other two options. Tax liabilities, you owe the IRS, and it's just been hanging on there, and it's just become something that you haven't been able to get resolved. You could take the equity out and pay for your IRS tax bill, things like that. Legal fees, unfortunately, if you run into a legal problem, you could use your equity in there to pay for those fees. Child or parent care. Let's say you wanted to take out the equity there and put it down on a property in the town that your kid is going to go to college in, because it's cheaper to buy the property than it is maybe to pay for housing, get some roommates, things like that. You could use the equity for that. Something to invest in. I'm not saying this is or isn't a good idea, but it is something to think about. If you're borrowing your money on your cash out at an interest rate of 5% or 6%, but you can get a 10% return or a 12% return, if there's enough movement there for you to gain, you could access the equity there to make that investment. You could buy land. Hey, we really want to end up building a home out there with some acreage, but you're not ready to build. You could take the equity out of your current home to either buy the land cash, which would be great, or put a down payment on the land and finance the rest of it. And also divorce. This is a tough one, but it's true. If you're going through a divorce and you have to split proceeds, right, or pay the other party some amount of money, you could take the equity out of the home as a cash out loan and pay for that. So that right there is probably, I forgot to count, but probably 20 different ways you could use the equity in your home as home prices have increased and interest rates have improved and will continue to improve. Now's the time to take advantage of these things and actually see what you can use them for if you want to. And there's a whole bunch of ways you can do a cash out. You can do refinance of your mortgage as then doing a cash out. You could do a second mortgage called a home equity line of credit. If your home is paid off, you could refinance, do a cash out loan that way. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And in this video, I want to make sure I broke it down for you. And there's probably even ones that I'm not even, thinking of that you may have thought of. And if you have, comment down below. I'd love to hear your opinion on what you're using that money for. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. If you're interested in finding out how much equity you have in your home and what those numbers look like if you were to refinance and take that equity out, just drop your name and email address down below. I'll email you a couple easy questions and let's see if it makes sense for you to take that cash out. Hope you found this information helpful. If you did, I'd love to be your lender, and stick around for this next video. I think you're gonna like it.